All right. Hello, hello, hello. Here we are. It is a Wednesday and awesome. We're going to do a little cooking with Sage Country Herbs. So I'm actually teaching a nutritional superfoods class right now through Healing Hands School of Holistic Health. And one of my favorite recipes to share anytime I teach a nutrition class or any class that has anything to do with food, part of it is going to be making things. So because that class right now is on, it's online, normally I'd bring all this food in, I would make things for them. But because it's online, I can't do that. So I'm doing cooking shows. And this one was so cool that I thought I'd share it with you all. So, all right, I have a lot of ingredients here. Let's see if I can make this a little bit so you can see. Look at all these fabulous ingredients we have. Okay, so what we're making today is, they are cookie balls. And they are incredibly nutritious. They're incredibly delicious. They are technically, they're gluten-free. Technically, well, this would totally be dependent on the choices of what you're adding. Because the base of this, the base recipe is gluten-free and dairy-free. The base recipe is just simply dates and then nuts of your choice. Today I have some Brazil nuts, some pecans, and some walnuts. And I also like to put coconut shreds, but these are optional ingredients. The foundational ingredients are dates and nuts. Like, that's it. And then the sky's the limit. Like, literally the sky's the limit. I should say the base ingredients are dates, nuts, and then either some coconut oil or some hydrated chia seeds as your binder. And other than that, it's totally up to you. There's so many options. So I'm going to go over one that I make that I call a cookie ball because it does have some cacao powder and some chocolate chips. You can omit those. Basically, everything is optional. The coolest thing about these cookie balls is the fact that, hello, Jennifer. The coolest thing about these cookie balls is the fact that, well, they're nutritious, they're delicious, and they are so flavorful based on what you're adding that you can actually hide a lot of things in there. So that means that you can make these into like nutritional superfood cookie balls. You can add things like hemp seeds or here I've got a little bit of chlorella. It's so dark. It's a blue-green algae. It's so dark you can't even see it in my adorable little, I collect shot glasses and I don't really do shots of alcohol, but I love my little shot glasses, so I do my little tincture cocktails in them and I use them for like these. So these are all actually made by one of my good friends. Shout out to Sandra Christie, one of my favorite potters. So I've got some chlorella I'm going to add. I've got some cinnamon I'm going to add. I've got some turmeric I'm going to add, and I've got some cacao powder. This is actually some protein powder. Totally not necessary, but I like to just add in extra nutrition. The other thing is that, so I really like having chia seeds. Now, chia seeds would also be some of the superfoods because chia seeds, along with flax seeds and hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, when we actually use these appropriately, they are some of the most nutritious seeds on the planet because it's very specific. All of these seeds are rich in the 4 macronutrients. They have good quality protein, not all complete protein, but a lot of good quality protein. They've got good quality fats, your essential fatty acids. They've got fiber, lots of fiber, and they have complex carbohydrates. So those are the 4 macronutrients. We absolutely need them. Carbohydrates are quick burning fuel. Glucose give good fuel to our bodies to be able to function, especially thinking quickly. You also have your fiber, helps to keep us regular and helps with cholesterol and helps with feeding our microbiome. You've got your fats, which are both fuel and building blocks for making healthy new membranes, healthy new cells. And you have protein, which is just straight up building block, new cells, muscle tissue, As well as, of course, like your digestive enzymes are made of protein, your neurotransmitters are made of protein, so your antibodies for your immune system are made of protein. So getting these macronutrients are super important. And yeah, so, oh, right. So if you're working with chia seeds, one of the things you have to be aware of is you want them to be fully hydrated, number one, so that they will fully digest, or you could grind them up into a powder. In this case, I actually want to use that mucilage slime that forms when you hydrate them, because I'm going to hydrate them until they are not fully hydrated, but basically until they are very gelatinous. And then we're going to blend that into our ground up nuts and dates and such, and mix it really well. And so then as it dries, it actually will be helping to bind everything. So that's going to take a couple minutes. You can hydrate your chias with anything liquid, literally. You could just do water if you want to watch sugar. You could do juice. You could do you could even take like a little bit of what do you call it? Like a little bit of jam and water it down so it's nice and watery, and you could use that. I am actually using syrup. There is so little sugar in these, mostly coming from the dates. So I am, let's see, I have about 3 ounces of chia seeds here, and I'm going to go ahead and add in just enough. I'm basically going to do, there's 1 tablespoon. I've done this too many times. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm just going to do enough so that everything is fully wet. I'm going to actually do a little bit more. So this is actually a little bit of ginger syrup. So good. If you've taken an herbal preparations class with me, then we've probably made ginger syrup together. This one I got a little fancy with. I also put in a little bit of hibiscus tea and some prickly pear fruit. So it's got a nice tang to it, along with a sweet and spiciness. Ooh, it's going to be so good. You could make some golden milk with turmeric and use that to hydrate your chia seeds. You could make some chai tea, use that, any tea, really. I mean, it's literally any liquid. So these chia seeds are now, everything has been touched by syrup. And I'm just going to let them, I'm going to put this to the side and let it sit. I want it to actually solidify. Okay, so now we're going to get started. So I've got my handy dandy blender here. It's just a food processor. It's not a blender. It's a food processor. You can totally use a blender. You can use like a Bullet or Vitamix or Ninja or any of those types. I found that when I used my Bullet, which is more like kind of a smoothie maker, it ground everything really fine. And that can be good, but I also like there to be a little texture. I like a little chunk. So, okay, so I have, what we're making today, we'll make approximately 40 to 60 balls, depending on how big you make them. Sometimes you'll hear these being called Zoom balls, where you could add in a little powdered yerba mate. You could add in a little matcha green tea powder. You could add in, you could hydrate your chia seeds with some cold coffee, and mix that up really well, and then you're adding that in so you have a little bit of caffeine. Or you could stick it to the caffeine-free energizing things and add in perhaps a little bit of maca powder, a little bit maybe of rhodiola. If you have some tinctures around, you could totally squirt some tinctures in here. You could, I mean, really, like, there's so many options. I love this. So, I'm starting with 5 dates, and you know what? I should probably write this up here. That'll make it easier. So we've got 5 dates, 4 cups, nuts of your choice. And then I'm adding into mine a 1/2 cup of oats, whole oats, and let's see, I've got a 1/2 cup chocolate chips, and I've got 2 scoops protein powder. Oh, I've got 1 tablespoon cacao. powder, 2 tablespoons of turmeric, 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. And then we have chia hydrated. And S and P, salt and pepper to taste. Okay. 5 dates going in. From my experience, I can tell you if you get dates that have pits in them, as I do, make sure you take the pits out. Date pits are, or seeds, are hard enough to break your blades. I learned this the hard way. It didn't actually break the blade, it broke the plastic. It got stuck on the blade, and the blade whipped it around and around, and it actually cracked the plastic. So, 5 dates. I've got a cup of Brazil nuts. Goes right in. And I've got 1.5 cups of pecans are going right in. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in my 2 cups of walnuts while it's going. And that's going to be too loud for me to talk over, so I'm going to go ahead and measure this. Woo! All right. So that will give me a total of 4 cups of nuts. Nuts. And so I'm going to go ahead and get this started. It's going to be loud for a few minutes. And I'll put basically all my dry ingredients in right now. And then we'll scoop it out into my bowl. And then we add in all of our powdered ingredients, mix it all up really well, and then add in our, oh, look at that chia seed. It's already like really thick, spreadable. We'll spread that through, and then we'll drizzle in our coconut oil. All right, here we go. Loud. Now, one of the things that I like to be aware of is texture. You know, what kind of texture do you want? Do you want it to be really smooth? Do you want there to be a little crunch in there? So I've saved a little bit of my chocolate chips to mix in after, because I like there to actually be a little crunch. Now I'm going to, everything is pretty well ground up. I'll get this nice and close to the camera so you can see. It's a couple whole chocolate chips, but for the most part, everything's pretty well mixed. So this is all of my dry ingredients. Brazil nuts, walnuts, pecans. And then I'll go ahead and add in, we got chocolate chips. We've got some whole oats. I did steel cut oats. We've got some, let's see. I did some plant-based protein powder, some cacao powder, some turmeric, some cinnamon, I didn't put it up there. I also put in here some chlorella. So we've got some green superfood in here. Now, I didn't put a lot. There isn't a ton. There isn't a full dose, like a medicinal dose of turmeric or a medicinal dose of really anything in here. But I really go on the concept of the nutritional bucket, that the more we add small amounts of good quality nutrition to our foods in all different ways, the more we are slowly filling our nutritional bucket. And honestly, I have found that to be way more conducive to a healthy lifestyle than, say, spending a ton of money on the latest new product that's supposed to, well, make all these claims that it's going to do all these great things and cure all your ails. And when really, if a product does not talk in any way about you and your choices, that to me is a red flag, because there's no product that's going to take the place of you getting good sleep. There's no product that's going to take the place of you teaching yourself to not eat when you're stressed so that you actually absorb your nutrition. So to understand that there's never one product that's just going to fix everything. That your health is a product of your choices every day. And there are outside influences. There's environmental factors, environmental toxins, there's family genetics. But ultimately, your daily choices actually contribute more in a direct way to your general health. So, oh wow, this is like really thick. I'm going to add a little bit more liquid to my chia seeds because I want them to be spreadable. All right, so, oh, these are nice. These nice and spreadable. So now my chia seeds are hydrated. They're almost in like a jam-like consistency. So now I'm going to just spread them through. And remember, the chia seeds and what you're hydrating them with, I mean, first of all, the chia seeds are totally a optional ingredient, specifically because they are part of our binding. You can use coconut oil for binding, because the cool thing about coconut oil is that it's liquid at room temperature, especially in the summertime, but solid when you cool it down. So what we're going to do with this, once I get all of these chia seeds in and mixed in, then I generally pour my coconut oil in, mix that in really well. I'll do a quick little taste for salt and other balance of flavor. I hate wasting. And then we'll put this in the fridge. And we put it in the fridge so that that coconut oil can solidify. But it's all mixed together, so as it solidifies, all it's doing is helping to be a binder. So that's really cool. Now the chia seed totally chunks up and sticks to itself. So now it's just a matter of just nice, gentle movements, pressing all the powders in. You can't actually see any of the chia, but you can see some of the chunkiness of it. So I'm just pressing those chunks out. Just keep pressing it out until you get mostly smooth, and then you can add your coconut oil in. Make sure you get your spoon down to the bottom. That's where a lot of powder wants to like hang out. So you want to get all the way down. Need some music to this. Oh, that's funny. The theme song of Grease just popped into my head. Not usually what pops into my head. All right, you know, the one. I got chills. They're no multiplying. But I'm not losing control. But the excitement of making cookie balls is electrifying. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad I entertained myself. Okay, so now I've got this lovely cookie ball. Mostly smooth powder with some chunks of chocolate chips. I'm going to add in my coconut oil. This is 4 ounces. I'm going to start with just 2 and see how that works. Once again, there's a lot of mixing. I might have been smarter and grabbed a bigger bowl so that I'm not making a mess. But, you know, making a mess is kind of the fun of cooking. So on here also needs to go coconut oil. I didn't put that up there. Okay, so at this point, At this point, let's see where they're at. I'm going to sanitize my hands over here. My own personal hand sanitizer. So I'm just going to take a small amount, put it in my hand, and squish. Does it stay together? Does it mostly stay together? So a little back and forth, and check it out. Not big enough to be a ball, but I can see that it's actually binding, so that's what I'm looking for. Once I put this in the fridge, even just for 10 minutes, that'll cool that coconut oil that's all mixed in, and it'll bind a lot better. So then I'm going to taste this. I'm going to taste a small amount of it to taste for salt content and flavor balance. Oh, I've put no salt in it yet, so add just a little bit. And I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper, specifically because, number one, black pepper actually aids in absorption of nutrition in the small intestine, but also because black pepper is known to have compounds called purines, and those purines actually help with the absorption of turmeric, and we put turmeric powder in here. When you think about black pepper and turmeric, you think about things like curry. Curry is generally, turmeric is a very common ingredient in curries, and so is chili peppers and black pepper. I'm actually in the process of making a culinary herbalism class for the Sage Country Herbs website. It's not going to be called culinary herbalism. That name is taken. It is, well, the name will come up later when we're ready to launch. So, and we talk a lot about all different spices, and black pepper is absolutely fascinating. It was the spice. It was part of the spice trade long before chilies went around the world. Black pepper was the spice that gave things heat. And it was so, black peppercorns were so popular that they were actually used as currency at a time period. So, oh yeah, lovely. So these are delicious. They're nutritious. There's one other thing I want to go over. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of this coconut oil, because I can tell. I make these about once a month or so. I actually request that my family does not buy boxes of cookies unless it's a really special occasion. I'd rather make them, number one. And number two, cookies are kind of my thing. And homemade cookies are always better than store-bought. Not only taste better, but you can use way better ingredients, and they cost way less, and you're putting your energy into them. So the last thing I want to go over is, so you realize that this has very, very little sugar. There is in 50, this will make 50 to 60 cookies, or 40 to 60, depending how big you make them. I generally like them kind of small, like 2 biters, 1 biter to my husband. But you can also make them bigger if you want. I do keep these in either the fridge or the freezer. They never freeze solid because of all the oil from the nuts and the coconut. But, so, when it comes to the sugar content of these, it's very low. There are 5 dates. So, if you're making, say, 50 balls, that's, 1 date per 10 balls. It's a very, very small amount. I did put in probably 2 ounces, maybe 3 ounces of my hibiscus prickly pear ginger syrup, and that is 50% sugar or 40% sugar, so about 1 ounce of liquid sugar in 50 balls, and then a little bit of sugar in the chocolate chips, and that's it. So the sugar is actually really low. The fiber is ridiculously high. There is fiber in the nuts, there's fiber in the chia seeds, there's fiber in the dates, fiber in the oatmeal. Like there's so much fiber. So these are really nutritionally dense. But let's say you are making them for a family that actually does eat things like candy, and you want it to have more of a sweet flavor. You don't have to put more sugar in. What you can do is make a cookie ball dust. And I love this because this cookie ball dust, I can make a cookie ball. And the dust is, I simply took, let's see what's in here, some coconut shreds. So some dried coconut shreds. There is 1 tablespoon, there's 2 tablespoons of coconut shreds, 1 tablespoon of sugar, of organic sugar, 1 tablespoon of organic raw cacao powder, 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and a shake of black pepper. So now I put my cookie ball in here, shake it around, and now it's coated. And the thing about this is, yeah, there is a tablespoon of sugar in here. The amount that's on here is going to be just a few grains, really. But everything in here is what's going to touch the tongue first. So it's going to excite the tongue. It's going to taste sweet initially. There's cacao powder, so there's a chocolatey flavor. There's cinnamon. There's the sweetness of the sugar. And the coconut really acts just kind of as a medium to hold everything. Very fiber rich. And so now, even though the cookie ball itself is not super sweet, the first initial hit when it touches the tongue will trigger sweetness. So it's a way of having more sweetness in your life without eating a lot more sugar. It works out really, really well. So at this point, I don't even need to actually put this in the fridge, but I know they'll bind up a little bit better if I do. So I'll put this in the fridge and then pull it out anywhere from 10 minutes to a half hour. It could also sit in the fridge for hours if you need to get to it later. One of the things we often do, we usually watch like maybe an hour of, some type of like nature programming or something at nighttime. And so we'll pull out a towel and wash our hands, and one of us will ball and the other will dust, and we'll go ahead and make them all while I'm a multitasker. If I'm like watching something, I also like to do something with my hands. So, all right, yeah. You can tell that there is turmeric in these because I have a slight yellowing to my hands, but that'll come off easy. So ridiculously simple and incredibly nutritious, and a really fantastic way to be able to make like snack balls and be able to add in anything. Like, the sky's the limit. There are so many different options here. Nuts of your choice. You can do whatever type of nut that you like. The softer nuts tend to smooth out really nicely. I will say that I have done nut butters, and they tend to be more mushy. And so I like actually working with whole nuts. You could add in some nut butter if you wanted, but I like the whole nuts. What the chia seeds and what you're hydrating them with, totally up to you. The powders that you can sneak in there. I didn't even used to put oatmeal in these, but I realized if I put a 1/2 cup to a cup of oatmeal in these, it stretches it out, and it's only adding just that much more fiber. And it all gets ground up anyway. Yeah, and then the powders are just so easy. I mean, what a great way to sneak like green superfood powders that can have a strong flavor, and maybe people don't like, drinking green drinks. So easy to slip green powders in here. So easy to slip things like turmeric or other anti-inflammatory. You could do ginger powder. You could put in something like milk thistle powder. If you're into spices, you could play, I did more of like a pumpkin pie spice blend. A couple times ago, it had some nutmeg and a little bit of allspice along with the cinnamon. I always put in cinnamon because cinnamon is helpful with balancing blood sugar. And that's always a good thing when you're eating something that, even though there isn't a lot of sugar in this, it's still I do the whole cinnamon drops in the bucket of nutrition, where I add cinnamon and turmeric into a lot of things. It can go sweet, it can go savory. I really love working with that idea and that concept of nutritional drops in the bucket. With everything you eat, you just add in extra nutrition. So I hope you try to make some of your own cookie balls and try different things and come up with your own way of doing it. And, your own special recipe, and you can always add in different things. And yeah, all right. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.